Hey there, it's Carl, and this is another episode of Startup Notes podcast. Today, I stumbled upon a very relevant book for my current problem. Um, the reason why I wasn't able to deliver results in the sales department were unknown to me at first. At first, I thought, oh, I just don't have enough technical understanding and theory on how to sell, uh, and then maybe my English is not good. But then I realized at this point, my English is at a level where I can successfully negotiate with prospects. Second of all, I clearly know what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to do it, the best way to do it. So this is the second point. And so I've had everything and I couldn't understand why there's no progress in sales. But I kind of missed the third part of the equation, let's say. It's your mental like abilities. And nobody like kind of talks about the mental aspect of sales and just like your psychological barriers that you might have. And this book is kind of perfect. Uh, it's just, it's not about like how to ask questions to your potential clients. It's not about like specific scripts. It's not about the funnels. It's just about the mental game of sales. Well, hopefully, after this book, I'll implement all the advice from this book, and then I'll be able to start selling, properly selling. So, the name of this book is Peak Performance Selling: How to Increase Your Sales by 80% in 8 Weeks by Carrie Johnson, MBA and PhD. Let's begin. Preface. Many people claim that the key to success are goal setting and goal planning, but that is only the beginning. Success comes from goal getting. Success comes from goal getting. To achieve the results you want, you must first understand the psychology of producing those results. Why do people succeed or fail? Why do New Year's resolutions rarely make it to year end? What are the stressful effects of change? Why do many people fear doing things that yield high rewards? This book discusses why we need goals and what goals can do for us. It will provide you with a blueprint for attaining goals. It will help you analyze how much effort you will need to achieve your goals. This program can help you make quantum leaps in your productivity and, as a result, in your income. First, we will examine what prevents you from achieving maximum performance. There are important psychological barriers to hitting your goals, certain behaviors that make you a slave to your own insecurities. Understanding what these behaviors are and what they do will help you overcome these obstacles. Second, we will examine the four greatest fears: fear of success, fear of failure, fear of embarrassment, and fear of rejection. We also look at how these fears may be sabotaging your success and your ability to achieve. Finally, we focus on habits, habit patterns, and how they affect us. We'll help you understand how habits are formed, why many habits are so difficult to break, and how to modify or change present habits or form new ones. Doing this will help you achieve what you conceive and believe you want. So this is a preface. Let's move on to part one: why you're holding back. One overcoming limitations to performance in the last 6 weeks have you um, one, overcoming limitations to performance. So, in the last 6 weeks, have you procrastinated, not prospected enough, not asked for enough referrals, found that when you finally got around to organizing your messy desk, it was during prime business or selling time? Avoidance behavior, symptoms of a problem. Avoidance behavior. If you said yes to any of these questions, you are practicing avoidance behavior. And what is funny, that's exactly what I've done. Since the moment that I posted that I'm gonna do sales, I've had this avoidance behavior because I would do anything else but what I need to do. It's cold emailing, prospecting, and stuff like that. I would do podcasts. I would watch TV series. I would meet with completely random people, like everything else except what I'm supposed to do. And now I've learned that it's called avoidance behavior. Well, let's move on. Avoidance behaviors are the things we do to keep from feeling psychological discomfort. If left to run rampant, they can destroy your productivity. As a consultant, I constantly deal with folks who exhibit obvious avoidance behaviors. Some people in the business I work with are incredibly unproductive. The issue is probably not that they don't know what to do. These managers or employees have typically spent many years learning their jobs. Their knowledge and experience are quite sufficient. Why don't these people do what they know they should do to double or even triple their level of productivity, you might ask? Could they be lazy, or is it simply that they want to avoid the discomfort that the change to a higher productivity state may bring? I recently hired a staff person to do follow-up marketing calls. A basic part of her job was to call people who were interested in using our services. Unfortunately, she consistently found ways to avoid making those calls. Her avoidance behaviors included typing out forms to keep tracking of the phone calls or reorganizing the filing system to make the resource materials more accessible. All of them were to avoid making the calls that stressed her out so much. While it was obvious that making calls was the most important thing to do at the time, she risked her job by not doing it. Was this laziness, or was it an unconscious desire to avoid the discomfort those phone calls brought? So basically, this example demonstrates the exact situations that I have. I'm supposed to start messaging every day, 20 messages a day, and I would just avoid doing that no matter what. I would do anything else except that. And yeah, and now I kind of realize that it's an unconscious desire to avoid the discomfort that those cold emails will bring. All right, let's move on. The answer may lie in avoidance behaviors. To immediately erase all avoidance behaviors from your life and instead practice the desired time management techniques, you would need to change a great deal all at once. Very few people become that efficient that quickly on their own, often because of underlying subconscious reasons that cause them to be disorganized in the first place. These reasons manifest themselves in avoidance behaviors. We've all seen avoidance behaviors at work, both in ourselves and in coworkers. These behaviors may include shuffling cards around the desk, arriving at work late, leaving early, taking an extra long lunch, or even reading a book or magazine on the job. Pause for a minute. Can you think of avoidance behaviors you engaged in your own life? Do you spend 30 or 40 minutes chatting with associates or friends in your office before you get down to the business of making phone calls or dealing with difficult projects? Do you read your email during the 8 to 5 workday, knowing that it may be the least productive use of your time? As you might have guessed, avoidance behaviors are not the actual problem. These are merely the symptoms. They indicate that you may be experiencing a psychological dilemma on a much deeper level, or a variety of self-sabotaging fears. Interesting. So avoidance behavior is just a symptom, or like it can be just symptoms, and they indicate that you may be experiencing a psychological dilemma on a much deeper level or a variety of self-sabotaging fears. Well, let's move on to self-sabotaging fears. These four fears are fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of success, um, and fear of embarrassment. Performance barriers. We all face psychological barriers to goal achievement, often daily in our business and personal lives. These performance barriers are not likely to go away by themselves because they are frequently symptoms of much larger and deeper issues. But in order to rid ourselves of these barriers, we must first become aware of their existence. But first, let's examine some symptomatic behaviors that limit our productivity. They include procrastination, disorganization, lack of motivation. The first problem behavior is procrastination, putting things off intentionally and habitually. When we procrastinate, we do not accomplish tasks when we know they should be done, but postpone them until the very late moment. The word procrastinate is derived from the Latin pro, meaning toward, and cras, meaning tomorrow. I'm sure you've heard the saying, don't put off until tomorrow what you should do today. Usually, we procrastinate because we are faced with a difficult task we don't want to do. The task might require anxiety-provoking emotional involvement, like paying bills. Or we may be afraid of making mistakes, for example, when talking to intimidating people. So we simply put these things off. Procrastination not only limits performance, but also can counter productivity. When you procrastinate, you might often find yourself asking, what did I do today? What did I accomplish? What I wanted to accomplish? Why didn't I achieve what I had planned? You feel guilty because you didn't meet your own expectations. Your self-confidence is threatened. In turn, your performance decreases. Think of the last 60 days. How many times have you ended up losing a sale or running a big deal because you procrastinated? Ruining a big deal because you procrastinated? You waited until the last moment, put something off, or didn't do it at all. These second performance barrier. So yeah, you just need to ask yourself these questions, and I've definitely been procrastinating for a long, like for an extensive period of time, and all these questions kind of like help me realize. And you know, every solution begins with a realization, and that's why I really like this book. It's like kind of explaining why you behave the way that you do. All right, the second performance barrier is disorganization. So the first one we've already covered, it's procrastination. And now let's talk about the second performance barrier, disorganization. Do you find it difficult to locate things in your office? Do you feel to keep track of your ideas or of things you've talked about? Are you spending too much time looking up information that should be at your fingertips? If you were more organized, would you cease to neglect doing those things you know would make you more efficient and productive? Ask yourself these questions. Disorganization as a barrier to productivity is certainly not a new concern. Entire seminars are devoted to time management. Numerous books go into great detail about becoming organized and include ways to think about time and your physical environment. Surprising as it might seem, remember that by nature, people recognize and like to replicate patterns. Human beings like to be organized. There is nothing in your horoscope that predestines you to plague yourself with disorganization. The cause of disorganization are primarily psychological, stemming from childhood as well as from the challenge of coping with a highly complex world. Many disorganized people are in essence still challenge childhood authority, usually that of a parent. Parents teach their young children that there are always things ought to be, that there is a right way to do things, that a good child is disciplined and orderly. The demands parents make and the attitude they instill in their children toward life affect them deeply. Most parents have begged their children in this way: "Jeff, clean up your room." Depending on the circumstances, a child may interpret this demand as an infringement on his identity and autonomy. At some point, defiance begins. The child begins to resent the parental control and tends to rebel, in effect saying to the parents, "I won't be orderly or disciplined." So he or she fights the parent's authority in the belief that order means entrapment or loss of identity, and that disorder means freedom from parents and greater self-identity. At first glance, it seems to be a natural childhood function to be disorderly. When we dig deeper, however, we find that the disorganization often comes from a child's refusal to do everything the authority figures have demanded. This is because the child needs to establish an identity. The need for order. Everyone is capable of being organized. We have a powerful inner drive toward order and clarity. Being disorganized is an avoidance behavior symptomatic of anxiety resulting from the four self-sabotaging fears we will discuss in chapter 3 through 6. So we have a powerful inner drive toward order and clarity. Being disorganized is an avoidance behavior symptomatic of anxiety resulting from the four self-sabotaging fears. Alright, so I'm also very disorganized in my working space. So that's also an issue. I kind of hit all the avoidance behaviors patterns. The third business performance barrier is a lack of motivation. If your answer yes to any of these following questions, chances are you're experiencing a lack of motivation. So, do you sometimes feel that all you want to do is sit there? Do you not want to dial the telephone, talk to prospects, or talk to people at all? That's me. Do you find that your self-esteem is diminishing a bit, or that you have no real enthusiasm or excitement for the work you're doing right now? That's also me. I have no enthusiasm or excitement about doing the cold emails and stuff like that. So that's me. Do you feel some sense of worthlessness because you're not meeting your self expectations? Absolutely. In your job, are you avoiding some activities that cause you discomfort? Yes. Sometimes a lack of motivation results from a feeling of complacency. So sometimes a lack of motivation results from a feeling of complacency. Because, because of the anxiety the process of change brings, we merely resist change itself. Beware of rah-rah motivational speakers who capitalize on our emotional vulnerability. Most motivational speakers who claim they can help deliver us from our lack of passion rarely fulfill their claims. Many attendees of motivational programs feel great immediately afterward, but rarely can remember what the speaker said. The late Jim Rohn, author of the book The Seven Keys to Wealth and Happiness, saw the same attendees over and over at his speeches. Jim used to tell them, "I've seen a lot of you before. How come you're in another motivational seminar? Didn't you apply the techniques you learned last time?" Jim's point Jim's point is basically that you can't get motivation from a speaker or by reading a motivational book or scrolling through Instagram like motivational videos too. Many motivational speakers are entertaining and enjoyable, but until you're able to set a plan for yourself to achieve your objectives, you might as well be throwing money into a rat hole. Motivation comes from within. Motivation does not come from being pumped up externally. Motivation is an internal process. Another person can set the stage, but only you can act out the part and motivate yourself. You're the only one who can change yourself. No one can do it for you. So, yeah, this is kind of the end. We're halfway, yeah, we're not halfway, but the second chapter, we might say, is self-sabotaging fears, how learned behavior can cause prog- pro- production to plummet. And we're gonna do this chapter in the next episode. So far, I really liked what I've heard, and it kind of helps to understand why you're not performing at the best capacity. And like in the next chapters, like you're gonna hear more cool insights. So yeah, thank you for listening and have a great day. Bye.